When Harry Met Sally, a photography podcast, would like to acknowledge the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, the traditional owners of the lands and waters in which we are recording this podcast on today. As people who work with artists seeking meaning and knowledge through storytelling, we recognise the first peoples of this nation have been doing so for over 60,000 years. We pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging across Australia. Always was, always will be Aboriginal land.
And the When Harry Met Sally podcast would be nothing without our fabulous sponsors, would it, Harry?
Absolutely.
So first of all, we'd love to welcome a new sponsor on board for this year, which is the RACV. Thank you so much for being a wonderful sponsor, and we're really excited about having you on for Season 3.
And we'd like to welcome back and thank Nikon Australia, who are always a part of supporting the creative industries in Australia. Ted's Cameras, thank you so much for joining us again. And A&L Artistic Framers, who are just fabulous people to work with.
And last but not least, Col Arts. Thank you for the pod suites. This is our third year in here. We have added ferns and all sorts of wonderful things into the pod suite room this year. And it's without you, we wouldn't have a podcast really, would we?
We certainly wouldn't, and we hope you enjoy the episode.
Thanks, guys. Bye. Now, here we are. Sorry, I was waiting for the sign from Shaquille. Harry, we've got a fabulous guest with us today.
We do.
Now, I have known this person we've just discovered, for over 30 years now.
It would be, yeah.
And I'm horrified that it's that long, but you have just gone from strength to strength to strength. And I'd like to introduce David Roennfeldt from 3 Deep Design.
Yeah. Thank you.
Welcome to the podcast, David.
It's a pleasure.
We were just talking leading into this about your surname being that your family discovered the Barossa Valley.
Well, one of the original families that settled. So a lot of the families did the Barossa down through the Adelaide Hills from Germany. And up until even I think World War I, it was all full German speaking and schools. Like my grandfather went to a German school and...
Wow.
And next door neighbour Hank did as well.
Yeah,
yes,
I know. So it was only after, I think it was in World War I, the government took over the Lutheran schools and turned them into public schools and made them only speak English.
Oh, there you go.
Wow.
I love a bit of family history.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So
got some good wine in the cellar there?
A little bit. But I took my son, who's 16, and we did a road trip with the swag and the dog
amazing.
Between Christmas and New Year's. And so we found the roads with Roennfeldt Road and all that kind of thing. And then the original homestead with the vines, and then also the graveyards for the old guys.
Oh, what an amazing trip.
So it was interesting for him.
Did you do lots of photos and stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll have to do something with it, which is a really nice segue into why we're interviewing David Roennfeldt from 3 Deep Design, who is the creative director and co-owner.
Yeah.
Did I get that right?
Yes, correct.
What we want to talk to you today about is your career journey and your path with photography. So tell us a little bit about 3 Deep. How did it get started and who are you in there with?
Yeah, so we started while we were in second year at university at Swinburne, and Brett and I had ended up, so we came from two different backgrounds. He started in fine art at RMIT.
Brett Phillips?
Yes. And then I had started in mechanical engineering at Swinburne at the Hawthorn campus. And he's a couple of years younger, but we both ended up starting graphic design at Swinburne University.
And that's when I met you.
Yeah.
So it was a second kind of attempt at finding a career for both of you.
And it's interesting because it's like all of that study and all it's interesting, but it doesn't, it's what you make of it.
Yeah.
But also pretty much most of the time it's not that relevant to what you're going to do in your life, whatever you study.
That's so
It's just a
interesting.
way to get a discipline and or a discipline about how you formulate knowledge.
Yeah.
And how you understand the world, because it gives you a separation of time from school when you don't know what you're doing, through to then working out what you're doing. So it was second year, and then while I was studying, I was also doing a bit with Brian Sadgrove before I started in graphic design. So pretty much straight out of engineering, I was doing a little bit with him. And he's always been a great mentor and friend of Brett and I.
And for those that you don't know, Brian Sadgrove was a very prominent graphic designer.
So some of our dollar notes, Channel 9 logo, redhead matches, all that.
And how did you meet him?
Back then you didn't have email and all, and I just wrote him a note and then...
Oh, that's amazing.
Attached it to a pigeon. And
So when you reached out to him, was that something that you had to take a big deep breath and pull up your socks and kind of, or were you did you have no fear, just thought, this is someone fantastic, I want to work with them?
Even before I studied design or anything, I knew of him. And I'd read, while doing mechanical engineering, I'd read the whole of the art and design section at Swinburne while I was studying mechanical engineering. So I knew all that history of Australian design and European design. And so I just sent him a note and said, I'd love to come and meet with you and do some work with you. And
amazing.
With the stamp.
Yeah. And
He posted it.
Yeah. So, and then he was okay, and then we've always kept in touch over the years, and sometimes it's like we don't talk to each other for a few years and then we catch up and
reconnect.
Yeah. And so then while Brett and I happened to start first year at Swinburne, sitting opposite each other, and totally different backgrounds and personalities, but we actually literally sat opposite each other.
Wow.
And so we've probably been sitting opposite or beside each other for 33 years or something like that.
It is
really
a beautiful relationship. And you live near each other too, don't
next
you?
Door.
They live next door to each other, and your families are friends.
Yeah.
And the kids are friends.
Yeah, so we did a book for John Wardle Architects, and he owed us a favour. So we had him design 2 townhouses, which the courtyard in the middle opens up.
Oh,
and
wow.
So we've kind of... we've been in and out of each other's lives, well, more in each other's lives than anything.
For a long time. That's amazing.
It is a really beautiful friendship. And I do remember you in the class. I was in there teaching photography.
Yeah.
And I remember you guys so clearly. And I remember Brett had dreadlocks and you were really straight.
Yeah.
You come from engineering, and I'm thinking, what's going on here?
Yeah.
But
so it was so different.
You just made it. You just were the yin and yang, weren't you?
Yeah.
Did you?
Yeah. So when we were in second year, because my parents had moved to London, and so I had to make means, whatever. So I did a bit of design even for Adele Palmer doing Jag clothing while I was in first year, I think.
Wow.
So I was designing blouses for bad cheap blouses for Maya and that kind of thing. And then...
Amazing job to have in first year, though.
Yeah, it was just a way to make some money.
Better than designing, toilets for engineering facilities.
So, and then as we were starting to go through second year, starting to get some projects externally I was getting. And so then I was with Brett and Paul Mewson, another guy, and that's where the 3 came from, 3 Deep.
Ah.
And so we started doing these projects together, and I was getting them in the door. We're doing them, and by the time we were in, I think it was third year, some of the work we was doing was starting to get noticed, and we were even getting published in The Age and that kind of thing. So by the time we finished university, we'd got quite a profile. Yeah.
That's amazing.
So it sort of then fed, and even, do you remember Steve May? We were doing the government campaigns together, because I think you met him, and then you even... got us involved in those projects. So it was like Sally was around, actually involved in getting us some of the early work.
Amazing.
As well. Yeah.
That's great.
Which was, I was thinking about it, that was ages ago. That would have been
And also found your first studio as well.
Yeah, with Linton Crabb,
Yeah, Linton had a space down there, and I was in his going, do you know anyone that would like to move in here? And I went,
yes.
They don't know it yet, but yes, they do. And I got you in down there. That was
we
great.
were there for about 13, 14 years.
Near the aquarium, wasn't it? It was a great
under
space.
Jeff Busby was above.
That's right. Yeah. It was a good space for you guys there too, wasn't it? It was creative, and you made it your own.
Yeah, and we refactored it from what Linton had, and we lived there for a couple of years as well, until we got established. And so, and that was, being under Jeff was actually the way we started to get into the arts and meet, because he had people coming in for shoots all the time, and we met.
So Jeff Busby, for those of you that don't know, is a photographer who photographed the Australian Ballet,
Yeah.
actors, actresses, all throughout the arts.
Nick Cave in his early years, all that kind of thing. So it was kind of, we started meeting young, like Philip Adams, who Ballet Lab and Temperance Hall, he had just come back from New York, from working and living in New York for a while, and he was a choreographer, and we started to do work with him, and that was really some of that early arts work, and that's sort of where we started to get noticed when the images we were producing there. So
right from the beginning, the three of you at the beginning, did you just find that you all like clicked into sync straight away, that you all kind of knew each other's strengths and how you were going to work together? Was it very organic?
Through uni, it was a bit like that, and it was kind of in and out on projects together. And then really when we left uni, it was Brett and I who drove it stronger. Yep. And Paul was only around for a little while then, and then he went off and did some other things, We still keep in touch with him every year.
Great.
Yeah.
I think you're just the classic example of just two really lovely people. You know, you are just, yes, no, you are. You've always just been a really decent, good guy, as has Brett, that have created this following, if you like, based on just goodness. I know that sounds kind of strange, and I don't know if that's coming out the right way, but you've just made things happen by being a nice person.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
and we just work hard.
And you work bloody hard,
hard,
and you're bloody talented, apart from that. But making these lifelong connections and connecting with people and seeing an opportunity with Jeff or with me or whatever it was in the very early days that has just carried you all the way through. So tell us about now, like what's all the extraordinary things that you've done over the years?
So we've had a fairly prolific period, like the 30 years, and it's still non-stop. But I think it was mid 2000s, even we started getting noticed overseas. So there were projects we did with Louis Vuitton, with Madonna and Stephen Klein. And so we did exhibitions in Japan with both of them.
So how did you get noticed overseas?
I think it was through magazine articles in design publications. Yeah. And so we did that.
Did you meet Madonna?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. What's she like?
I don't know. It's always weird. I mean, I've worked with a few artists, even like Lizzo and things like that. But it's interesting because it is all, I mean, there's facades and constructs.
Yeah.
And so sometimes it's hard to work out when a person's not on show.
And I suppose if you're creating the image that they're putting out into the world, then they're really going to be on.
Yeah. And so we've even done fragrances with like Jeremy Scott and that kind of thing. And it's always, so a lot of the time when...
Did you bring any of them in as samples?
No. Okay. But even if you're not in front, so often when no one else is around, guard comes down on people and they will converse in a far more intimate manner.
And so when you said you were involved with them, what was your involvement? What were you doing on that particular project?
On that one, we were doing working on an exhibition to launch the Roppongi Hills store for Louis Vuitton. And so it involved the photography of Stephen Klein and of Madonna. And we were doing all the collateral, working on the exhibition. And so it was kind of I think it went on for a couple of months, the project, and then we're over in Japan for it. Yeah. And then that led on to other things like the fragrance projects. And
So have you found that sort of, I guess, over the years, have things sort of come your way, or have there been things that you've really chased? Have you really worked
a lot of it? So you will be chasing things, but often that's not the thing that happens.
Yeah,
it's something else happens that is sort of serendipitous. And so it's interesting because even early on, like we did that work with you on the government campaigns, which were sizable campaigns, but then we had the Melbourne Fashion Festival, and so very quickly we were, getting these projects, and then went overseas, getting some of the overseas work, and then, the more sort of went out of that small arts one, then into the bigger arts programs like the Australian Ballet, which we worked with for over 10 years, and then similar NGV's been for over 10 years. So it's that kind of thing, those smaller projects fed into the bigger project.
So they were like trialling you out and seeing how we all work together
Or
and
more
getting
even,
that confidence?
Well, at more we refined the way we're working. So I can remember even early on, so a lot of those small arts projects, we wouldn't treat it as what kind of budget it was. We would be looking at the imagery and going, how do we make this as good as like a Nick Knight image, a Stephen Klein image?
Yeah.
And so we taught ourselves to retouch and make images and all that kind of thing as well. So we've sort of seen photography more as a tool to how photographers as a tool for how we get across what we're seeing.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And
But,
sorry.
so even on the retouching, we taught ourselves because we weren't happy with the level of retouch we were getting in Australia, and so we taught a lot of ourselves techniques and that kind of thing to get images to the level we wanted. So that's where the images
incredible,
started.
really pushing yourselves.
Yeah, so that's where the images started to get noticed, because it'd be this all around Melbourne then. All of our posters for these smaller arts organisations were up in all the cafes, and everyone just be looking at the image and getting blown away by the image. And so people were ripping them off the walls in the cafes and
That's a
collecting
great honour, really, isn't it?
So that
I
kind
think I
of
did.
how-
I think I ripped one off. I think I still had it.
and that's kind of what started getting us noticed, was this kind of image making, because it was even clients worked out it wasn't just a photo.
Yeah.
Okay, so on that note, were you taking the photos or were you employing a photographer?
We were employing photographers.
Okay, and then how did they feel about you doing that to their imagery?
Well, they knew before they even took the photo.
So that was part of the brief?
Yeah. So sometimes even some of the images, because we knew what we were going to do to the image afterwards, we wanted the images done in what would technically not be right, but it was right for what we wanted to do after.
And was it a matter of finding the right photographers to do that, or did photographers openly go, yeah, you can stuff around with my images, which is kind of unusual?
We have only worked with a small number of photographers over the years. So, so Jeff Busby, we did work with a long period of time, and that was back in the days of film. So I would have him, which would have blown his budget, but I would have him film. He would film test all different grades of film for me with different exposures, and first we would get that to the point where we were happy, and then it would be like, okay, that's what we want to have done. So that was all in the prior to the shoot. And so these are small little art shoots, but I've got him shooting,
and
doing
so that's
lighting
like
tests.
the engineer in you doing that kind of stuff, isn't it? That's you just being such a perfectionist and wonderful.
Well, it was where we knew the things we were after, and the tones we were after, and the grain and all that kind of thing. And so and even now we still will do that, but it's more digital.
Yeah.
And a lot of, and when we look at, and some of it was by necessity as well, because I would say that, and even now globally, a lot of photographers aren't technically good photographers. And so they kind of work with what I would almost say is found light.
Yeah.
So the situation and the light is there, and that's how they make an image, but it only works if that's there. So the issue then is if you're under the pressure. So some of our shoots are large scale, like the most expensive shoots would be $750,000 dollars. So if you're in a shoot with that amount of pressure and you're not a really good technical photographer, you've got no skills to save yourself if the conditions aren't right.
Yeah, that's
such a good
amazing.
point.
Yeah.
And on that, with budgets like that, are we talking in Australia or are we talking overseas?
That one was in Australia.
Really?
Yeah.
Are you allowed to talk about what that was and who it was?
Yeah, that was a BPM, and so so we've done big shoots Australia and locally, and model fees where it's like $80,000-$90,000 of model sort of thing. So we don't do a lot of shoots. Everyone thinks we make a lot of shoots, but we don't do a lot. It's just when we do them really well and properly. So, and our position, over the years has meant it's afforded us to have that kind of scale of project.
So you go.
So how do you work with that kind of pressure? Like, is that something that you've always been able to manage, or does it take its toll?
No, that kind of thing is not that. It actually what it does is it makes it easier in some ways, because as the quality of your talent increases and the quality of the team increases, the results become better. But you also, it's far less, it's more shorthand between everyone because you all know each other's at a certain level.
Yeah.
And even the talent's at a good level where you're not having to, if you're doing a lot of shots, that means the talent's not good, the team's not good.
Yeah,
that kind of thing. So, yeah.
And you've all, I guess if you're working with the same people, and obviously you and Brett have worked together so long, do you find that you're just, like when you talked about that vision that you have for the shoot, like are you locked, like is it pretty much the same? You're both on the same page?
Well, and the teams that we work, like whether it's hair or whatever, so there's even people I've worked with hair and makeup since like 2001 and things like that. So they
just get it.
They know what we would not like in hair and what we would like in hair or what we want in makeup, that kind of thing. So they're thinking all the things where we would want in there, and they kind of know what 3 Deep would want out of it and what 3 Deep would do or not do. So
I know I'm hogging the questions, but so on that note, how do you then stay innovative and not get stuck into just kind of doing the same things that you've all been doing as a team together for so long?
Well, it's probably more, it's not like, it's more down to the idea. So all of our work is about problem solving and even about how we're making money for other people because in the end we're commercial artists. And so at the end of the day, it comes right back to the beginning, like what is the requirements for this business, whether it's NGV or whoever, what's the strategy, what are the elements we're trying to achieve, and then what we need to do. So then when you've done all that work, the strategy and the background work to the business, then it makes sense as to why you would cast a certain person or not cast a certain person.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
and so it's you're so articulate about how you work as well, which I'm just loving, and I know Harry is too. With photography, so when I'm just going back to maybe some of the international work, do you take photographers from Australia with you, or do you know photographers overseas?
I do know, and I've got friends overseas, but most of the time we would take a team from here, even down to hair and makeup and stylists, because the problem is Australia is kind of at the edge of the world. It's the same if you're Korean and you went and commissioned, a New York photographer. You're not that important. And so the chances are you're down the rung in the level, and you will lose control of your shoot in no time.
So you take your team with you?
Yeah.
Because they'll all just be really focused.
And so who's your photographer that you work with, or do you have several? You
said several. Before. So we've had different periods. Like there was probably the early ballet work was all with a guy called Justin Smith, who was he was a prodigy violinist. Then he became a model. Then he was a stylist for a while. Then he worked in music videos, and then he did image making. I would term it more as image making. Yeah. So if you gave him the right, so if you gave him the right, he could do the hair and makeup on the talent and all that. But so if you gave him the right brief, and he was in sync with us anyway, so it would mean the outcome was different.
And he would shoot it too.
So we would do that. So we worked with him for like 10 years. Then George Anthony is another one we've worked with for a long period of time, and we're good friends. So, and then, there's been others we've worked with as well, but those two have and Jeff Busby in the early days. So Jeff would let us do anything to whatever he'd shot. So, But all those guys we've worked with, it's in that they know
and that's what's as
but
a client.
They also trust that we're not going to make their work look bad.
Yeah, absolutely. So as a client for a photographer, what is important to you in working with a photographer?
Then it's more that they're going to be on board with our vision,
and not try and change it.
No. Or they can add, like they could come up with something that's better or whatever. But at the end of the day, so even like if I was doing a project with George for a new brand that we started working with, we go through all that strategy first with him, and he understands then what we're trying to do with the business, and then he sees his role is to help facilitate that
and that's
objective.
so important, that that communication and that friendship, because otherwise things like boring things like not boring, they're important, but things like copyright and legal stuff can get really in the way of being creative.
Yeah.
Would that be fair to say?
Yeah.
So he's totally on board with whatever you do, because you are right up front at the beginning.
Well, it's in the brief of this is what we're going to shoot and this is how we're going to do it.
And we don't want it to be technically correct because we're going to be doing this or whatever.
Or he'll bring other things to it. So he'll see it, the vision, and then he understands it, and then he brings all his skill sets to that. And so, technically he's brilliant.
And so when you take the teams across...
so he's done shoots with me in New York, LA.
And what are you doing in New York? How did you get into New York? I know you said you became noticed in magazines. Do you have a studio there, or
no?
Do you need someone like us over there to do any work for you? Or
not at the moment, no.
Okay, but maybe.
And so it's not like we're working in fashion a lot. We understand fashion really well, and we've got friends who are fashion designers, and we understand garments and everything like that. And
I ironed my shirt today for you.
Thank you.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
So,
and but that's where it's like people think we do a lot in that, but it's no more than any other area. And so it's just probably the difference is, so we'll understand the history. So even like at the moment with NGV, there's the Westwood and Kawakubo exhibition. Now, before they even have called us, before we even know they're doing an exhibition, we've already read and understand those people's work and their everything. So we've already got a full understanding of who they are and what the work's about, what the fashion's about. So it's not like we're suddenly going, let's go and do this. We already...
You're in it.
Yeah. And so, and that's across the board on lots of things. So we have Brett and I have collected a big and extensive library over the years of everything from art, architecture, fashion, that kind of thing. And we've always looked into all different areas. And that was kind of, even when we were students, we were doing that because we were looking at that stuff more than we were looking at design.
Yeah.
And that's where we were getting an understanding of, okay, what's this about?
Influence.
Yeah, so that's why when we start working with someone, we're bringing a huge wealth of knowledge.
Yeah, and history.
Into the
And there's
process.
nothing more wonderful than talking to somebody who actually has done their research and that you know what you're talking about and you're not just coming in and trying to change their world. And that, again, gets back to you just both being such...
Well, it means,
gentlemen, I guess.
It means when we're talking to people, we're not talking on as if, or asking questions that aren't related. We're already fast tracked through because we already understand a whole lot of elements. And it's similar, like even, in retail, we can kind of walk, before we even start the process of all the interviews and the strategy, we can kind of have a gut feel by just walking into a store. And we see how people behave, the way they interact, all that kind of thing. And we start to then be able to go, okay, this is where the issues are probably sitting as to why the business might not be going so well.
And so have you had has that sort of research side always been quite natural to you? Is that just something you have an interest in? Sounds like you were doing it back when you were studying, or is it something you pushed through?
So Brett does all the strategy stuff now,
and
he's on that and the new business side. But that's where, to us... unless you're actually providing a solution, you're just moving pixels around a screen.
Yeah.
And so to us, at this point, even years ago, we can execute extremely well, but that's not the thing. It's how do you solve the business issues of a client and what the actual problems are. And some clients don't necessarily want to face up to what the issues are with their business. And so we're not
But
often...
it's certainly your role to tell them. That's why they've come to you, isn't it?
So that's why we're not quite fitting into the realm of a designer as such, because we move outside of that realm into other areas.
Okay, so what do you call yourself? Image makers? No.
We're branding. We're branding
specialists.
Yeah. And that's where image making's one aspect.
Yes.
You do websites, you do whatever. And we've even done store designs for, jewellery stores, all that kind of thing.
So who makes up 3D apart from you and Philip?
Brett. Yeah.
And is there somebody there called Philip? No. But apart from you and Brett.
Yeah. So there's...
How many in the team?
It's not big at the moment. It's only probably 6 or so at the moment. We have been up to 20 at times. We've got a cinematographer, Sean, who's in there, and he does all our moving image. So he's been part of our world for a while now.
So he's full-time employee?
We have a side business, Silent Republic, with that, and he does everything for us and then does a bit for other agencies as well. And then we've got Lachlan Sumner, who was with us for 12 or 13 years, then went to Ongorado for 6 or 7, and then has come back. And then another guy, Andrew, who's worked with us on the store designs for Hardy Brothers and
is he a graphic designer, or is he more
he's
architect?
Graphic.
So they're all graphic designers in there?
Yeah.
Apart from Sean, the videographer.
Yeah. So our background, and that's why even if we're doing an environmental space, we're seeing it as a brand. So how does the brand sit? So it's not like we're going, okay, we're an interior designer or an architect. We're just doing how we see a brand existing.
It sounds like you've got so much intuition and that it comes quite naturally to you. Like, I know you've worked very hard and you've built all this knowledge, but it sounds like even back when you were in college or university, it sounds very intuitive.
Well,
figuring out how brands can improve and how you can help them.
Yeah, but it was also, so even I remember from early mid-'80s National Geographics, and I remember I can remember outfits in the magazine, in National Geographics, and going, okay, that's like that because of this.
Yeah.
And so it's just something from all of the way through, we've always just been going, why does that exist like this?
So you've just constantly questioned things and gone with your gut as well, haven't you?
Yeah,
you haven't tried to be somebody else.
No, and we've never really worked for other people.
Yeah.
That's my next question.
Yeah.
I interviewed somebody last year just through my business, and I had always felt that I thought it was a good idea to work for other people first before you started your own business, so you could, do the good things and the bad things and what you change and etc. But you never did. I knew you never did that.
Yeah.
Do you see that as being an advantage or not?
It can. So you can work in places and get into bad habits by the places you're in. So another place I did a bit of work while I was studying was George Patterson Bates, so advertising. And I never wanted to do advertising, but it was useful to see how that world and understand how it worked. But I was like, I never want to do this.
Even for that, it's a good thing, what you don't want to do.
And that was the same even when I was doing Adele Palmer. I didn't, they offered me a full-time job if I'd quit uni and go there, and I was like, this isn't what I want to do.
Really? You just knew early on that you didn't want to work for somebody else?
Well, I was like, that's just doing bad blouses in Myer, so if that's your end game, then that's cool. But and then even when we were starting out, we were never, even still now, a lot of the time we're never happy with our work. So it's never quite there for us.
Really?
So, yeah.
Perfectionists.
Yeah. Well, it's more we always know what it could have been further. Yeah. So it's you're always looking and going, well, it could have still gone to here.
That's the next season then, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got to improve all the time.
Yeah. But I think too, the other one when we were starting out, so even when we were at uni, we were doing the work, and I started doing work with Laminex while we were still in fourth year and all. And
I remember that.
Yeah, so part of it was that more of the work, so projects would come through and it's like we were uni students, didn't have any money, and you'd be presented with a job and it would be $60,000 and you'd be like, that's a lot of money as a uni student. And then we'd be like, no, it's not right. So the problem is if you start going into things and going, I'll take that. The problem is you're letting these projects shape your work, whereas we were more going, that's not the kind of project we'd ever want to do long term.
So you're very selective right from the beginning.
And so that was part of what actually makes you, because if you start going, I'll take this one on, very quickly you get caught up in those projects and that kind of work and that kind of thinking, which means then you don't actually get to do the stuff.
It's a very powerful thing to be able to do that, I think. And I've got somebody in my world who is a young actor.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing. I'm not going to take on shits and bits.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm waiting, and I'll do those few roles, and where I'm going, just take stuff, you know.
But it does mean,
but it's interesting.
And also the other one is if you got no money. And
well, then it doesn't matter because you've got no money. You're not losing anything.
No, whereas if you start to take those and you get the money,
then you're moving backwards.
Well, what happens is then you build a life around that money that's given you, and then you're stuck in that needing to have that money.
Yeah,
I think it's a very powerful and very ballsy way
a lot
to
of
do that.
dedication.
And I'm like saying proud is stupid, but it's just been an extraordinary career based on that, and it makes such good sense, doesn't it? If you can do that. Talking about money, just briefly. Do you take on personal projects? I know you do. Talk to me about your personal projects. How does that work?
Yeah, then we don't do jobs for just the sake of it. So, like, people will come to us with a book and say, do you want to do, we've got a book and you can do it for the experience or something. And we're like, we don't need the experience and we don't need the involvement.
I love that line.
So, but even things like, you know, with just done a series, working through a series of books with a friend, Tony Matiszewski, but even he wouldn't come and ask us to do it for nothing. So there's still that respect between you, and it's not about just do this favour or anything. So both sides, we treat it as a actual project, and the importance of the project and what it's got to achieve, and then we all commit to it.
I think it's really important for emerging and younger artists who are listening to know that even 30 years in, having had the career that you've had and the success, people are still saying, oh, you can get some exposure for this. I mean, it's the worst kind of thing about being in the arts, that they think, oh, we'll just swap skills, you know. Actually, we're doing work and we need to be paid for it.
Well, at the end, and we've got staff and all that and overheads, so it's like...
Not telling me nothing I don't know.
And, you know, if we want a good experience, then that's going off and, you know, you'd spend it with your family on the weekend rather than working hard on something not getting paid for that's not going to benefit you. And that's where the range of work we're done, we don't need don't need to do more work to achieve more.
So you've talked a lot about architecture and fashion. Is there any other sort of, I'm sure there is, what other kind of brands or products are you working with? Yeah,
then at the moment we're doing one for a big project overseas for Crypto.com, which is a packaging project. And we're using like the best box manufacturers in Switzerland. We're working with 3D metal printers in China, so they're printing objects for us out of metal. And then we're using some suppliers in Australia, and the cost, you know, is off the chart for what these things cost to produce. Like, you just never get budgets like that in Australia.
No, that's why I asked before when you were talking about big budgets. I'm going, was that in Australia?
Yeah, no, so we're definitely not the cheapest in Australia, and we're not the we sit at the top. We don't say
cheap, we say affordable.
But we don't. So if projects are below a certain value, we don't take them on anymore as well, because it's just...
Tell them to ring the Brown Bill Effect.
Always there with the plug.
Oh, I love the plug. Okay, wow.
I would.
That's huge.
Can I just ask, as we're sort of getting to the end of the session, you're obviously very prolific and have worked very hard throughout the last 30 years. How do you sort of balance that work-life kind of balance? Like, you've been working internationally, you say you've got family. You know, how do you kind of know when to say no to work or to spend time with the family?
Well,
is that
probably
hard?
the one thing, it all bleeds.
Yeah.
And the one thing is Brett and I have always lived near our studio office.
Yeah.
So we're normally less than 5 minutes to the thing. So if I have to work, I'll go to the office. I won't do it at home.
Yeah.
So that I'm not mixing that in.
Yeah.
And then when I'm home, I try to then, you're trying to then focus on what it is.
Yeah.
And then, you go hard and you embrace life for the time you have together.
Yes.
So it's like the kids, you go down the coast, you surf, you do whatever.
Yeah. Do your trips in between Christmas and New Year.
Yeah, like Christmas, New Year. My son and I, it was just like the swag, the dog, and we're just off into the desert and
Just
do that kind of thing. And
beautiful,
so you just remove.
So really compartmentalise.
Yeah. So, but like my children are used to having that as the aspect to life, and then there's times where you're 2 weeks overseas or you're doing whatever. So, yeah.
But amazing for them to see you just really passionate about what you do as well, and that you obviously love what you do and are so great at it, and that's an amazing thing for children to see their parent just really absorbed in what they love doing.
Yeah.
One of the things that we are wanting to talk a little bit more about is like what makes, in your eyes, what makes a good photographer? And we're going to be asking, and we have been asking everybody in the season, what are the 3 most important things that you look for when either hiring or working with a photographer?
So probably Australia is an interesting bit. A lot of photographers in Australia have to take on all sorts of jobs to exist. Mm-hmm. And so very few photographers in Australia actually have their own voice.
And is that a problem for you?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Because what it is you don't see, there's not a dialogue in their work of what it is they actually see in an image. So it's an interesting one because of where we are, and also it's getting worse and worse in the Australasia region is what the brands are wanting to do and how they direct and all that kind of thing. There's not a lot of ideas in the work. So there's a lot of almost, like I even know talking to some photographers, they'll get in 1 week, they've nearly shot the same shoot 5 times because that is what's been briefed into them.
Yeah.
And all it changes is instead of it being a painted wall, it's a paper roll or it's a fabric, but they're all the same colour and it's literally the same setup, the same props.
Where's creativity gone?
Yeah, that is, and it's hard. There's very few photographers in Australia who do have their own voice. But that's one thing we do look is, okay, how do they see and how do they interact? Because that tells you that how they're going to interact with you as well. Because if they're just used to it being fed to them and then they're just replicating whatever's in front of them, then they're not bringing much to it. Mm-hmm. So it's probably the main thing. And then the other one, like I was saying, is their ability to problem solve. So, and that was where I was saying a lot work with what I would say is found light or found situations, not that they've had to problem solve and solve how to make that image in that environment.
Yeah, right. Okay, you get 3 things. What's the third?
And then it's probably just that we get on
good
well.
People.
Yeah.
Well, that's really important too, isn't it?
Yeah.
God, you don't want somebody that's rubbing you or your clients up the wrong way.
No.
Yeah. And so
we don't want attitude. So even ourselves, we'll make, if we think the only way to achieve an outcome is we'll make the set ourselves or we'll make stuff ourselves. And we've always done that since the beginning. So
it really is such a huge collaborative vibe, and the people that work for you would just be so fortunate to work in there. And, I was talking earlier about, the more boutique agencies, keeping them smaller, everyone wearing lots of hats. I think you're a really good example of that, and that's a really cool place to be working, I should imagine, the space that you're in, that you've created and said no and just held on to what you wanted to do.
Yeah.
It's bloody fantastic.
It's hard work.
Tiring
sometimes.
Because there's going to be so many people listening to this, hundreds, and through your channels as well, do you mind if photographers approach you, or would you prefer they didn't, or how do you like them to do that?
People can always email us. Like we generally know mainly what's out there because we look, and we like when we're looking at a project, we don't ask photographers to do tests or anything like that. It's like we pretty much will just go with one photographer for that project and approach them. And clients will just then present that one photographer to the client and say, this is who we think should be on the job.
Yeah, great. Yeah. Because clients, that's what they're putting the trust in you to make those decisions. And, when they get involved. Woof.
Yeah.
Where can people see your work, David?
On our website.
And what is that?
3deep.com.au.
And it's the number 3?
Yep.
3deep.com.au.
And Instagram's similar as well.
Yeah. The same, even 3deep.
Yeah.
With the number.
Yeah.
It's been so interesting hearing, your story and just learning a bit more about 3 Deep and how you kind of came about creating it. And you're very inspiring, David.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, it's been really wonderful chatting to you.
Yeah,
Hugely inspiring. And what I love about it is, as I've said before, you have just maintained the essence of who you are. You have never changed.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really beautiful thing in this industry. Partnerships can be very fraught.
Yeah.
That have been around for 10, 15, 20 years, and they always explode.
Yeah.
Don't they?
Yeah.
You know, I shouldn't say always, but majority of the times they do. And the respect that you and Brett have had for each other, and the respect that you have for your own creativity is, as Harriet said, it's hugely inspiring. But I just wish more people would do it. But if more people did it,
part of it
be all about you.
Like even the way Brett and I see it is, it's we both know the end point of what we want, and we just see different ways of getting there. So having that is the thing of it, because you have, like you're saying, you have friction and all that kind of thing through the years and all, but at the end of the day, we both know that end point of the absolute best quality of the work is the most important thing.
But understanding that, I think that's the thing, David, like owning that and understanding, whereas so many people just go to puddle or water and go, oh, okay, we'll just do, okay, well, but you just have never, ever done that, and look how well it's turned out for you.
Thank you.
What a beautiful place to end. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, darling. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. We just want to thank all our fabulous crew that are working with us on Season 3 of When Harry Met Sally. Shaquille Raymond, back for Season 3. Couldn't do this without you.
God love him. I'm glad he keeps coming back. Ezra Williams, who's just started with us this year, who is working with us on filming, videoing, social media and all other things fabulous. And a huge thank you to Ash Wilson, who will be working alongside Ezra, editing all of the videos for YouTube. Thanks, Ash.
And Martin Stevens, Sally's wonderful husband, and also music extraordinaire, who's done our intros and outros for 3 seasons now. Thank you so much, Martin.
Yay, Martin. And for those of you that are watching on YouTube, Ash Peters, we'd like to say thank you for supplying the artwork to put in the pod suite. It's made a huge difference. Thanks, guys.
Thanks so much for listening. See you next week.
Bye.